Podcast City Network.
Listener discretion is advised.
You're listening to The Everett Lee Show. A shot of entertainment to the head. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the entertainment.
Welcome to the Everett Lee Show podcast. I am Everett Lee. Quick shout out to everyone who follows me on Twitter. You can follow me at the Everett_Lee, Facebook.com/the Everett Lee. Click that thumbs up. And of course, Podcast City Network. After podcastcity.net for this episode and content of the Everett Lee Show and much, much more over on podcastcity.net. Hit them up on Facebook, Podcast City Network, and on Twitter at Podcast City Net. I am back. I hope everyone enjoyed Sunday's edition of the Everett Lee Show when I had Hardcore Heather Owens on. The episode, if you missed it, it's up on the YouTube channel on Podcast City Network, so you can check that out over there on YouTube, Podcast City Network on the YouTube channel. Great, fantastic interview. Even last week with Maddie B, that's up on there too. And on the YouTube, well, actually, yeah, it is up on the YouTube. I just said. And it looks like my camera just went out. So, looks like you can still hear me, but my camera froze up. That's why Everett Lee packs up a backup right there. Looks like we're using a backup camera tonight now, ladies and gentlemen. But you know what? The show must go on. So joining me right now on the phone. He's waiting right by on the phone right now. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to welcome to the podcast tonight. He is the Kentucky Zone Wrestling United States Champion. I want to welcome to the program Chris Rose. How you doing, man?
Doing good, man. How are you? The Chris Rose, just sitting back and, gonna chat it up.
Excellent, excellent. Well, I hope things go well with my technical stuff. One camera just went out, but I'm glad I got this other backup one.
Well, it better work out. You don't want D. Chris Rose to get his hands on you, I'll tell you that.
Yeah. I hope that's a good thing that don't happen, because after watching your match that you had last week or a couple weeks ago, your last match that you had for KCW, it was freaking fantastic, and we'll get in talking about that here later on in the program. But I want to start out and ask you, Chris, where'd you grow up at?
Well, D. Chris Rose grew up in a small town of Corbin, Kentucky, and my parents, really great parents. They, gave me what I wanted, and I used all that to play a lot of sports. I grew up playing a lot of basketball, soccer, baseball, football, you name it, and, it's made me what I am today. I've always been an athlete, and being an athlete is what I am to this day in the worldwide entertainment of professional wrestling. And, growing up in Corbin, it was just all sports, really, basically.
Nice. So what age did you get into wrestling?
Well, my parents, before I even, realized it yet, my parents always said I was a red and yellow Hulkamaniac when I was young. But my recollection of wrestling was the 1997 Starrcade. Me and my brother, Roman, went to my buddy's house. And that was the first time I was introduced to wrestling, to my knowledge, was the 1997 Starrcade, Sting and Hogan main event.
Oh,
That's
nice.
about all I can remember. But I remember bits and pieces of my childhood. I'm going to tell you a little bit of a story I was really into Chris Jericho around that time, and I do remember a lot of that. Diamond Dallas Page. I wasn't allowed to watch the WWF because of the language. And my parents did not let me watch the WWF, but, of course, on down the road, I watched that myself, but
Right.
I remember vaguely sitting in the living room by myself. My brother was asleep. My parents was asleep. Chris Jericho was doing a promo. And all of a sudden, the TV went blank. And I don't know how. You know the little box TVs, how of a pain in the ass they used to be. But, yeah, I remember crying. And because I couldn't hear Jericho no more, I went in there like, Mom, why is the TV out? You know.
Right.
I was a big fan of Jericho. I was so into his promos, you know. And
He
kind
did
of
some
got
good
out of
ones.
wrestling in 2001. I quit watching it for a long time until 2008 again.
Oh wow, that's kind of like how I did. There for a while, I did watch wrestling on and off, and I really did. It was right around the early, I'd say it was probably right around the early 90s. I quit watching wrestling, and there for a while I picked it right back up during the Attitude Era, and then after that I watched it for quite a while from the Attitude Era, from the late 90s all the way up until probably about 2007, and then I didn't watch wrestling that much from 2007 till about 2013, and then I got right back into it. And I know that you're not the only person I've talked to that said they've watched it and then not watched it for a while, then get right back into it and stuff. And you were it sounded like you were more WCW guy, where you're more, you couldn't watch WWE. I mean, who was your favorite in WCW when you watched it?
Still there?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, it kind of cut out on you right there, but yeah, I was a WCW guy when I was younger, forcefully, because my parents, like I said, wouldn't let me watch the WWF. But how I got into the business is what I really want to talk about, and this was, again, when I started watching it in 2008. In 2008, my brother and I, was just sitting in the living room, and he turned it on wrestling, and I hadn't seen this in quite some time, because when I quit watching it in 2001, I was really an NBA basketball fan, and I kind of just threw wrestling aside, and, I was just a big sports fan all the way up to, around 2008. I quit watching basketball, and I didn't know quite why I quit watching basketball, but in 2008, I saw Chris Jericho on the screen again. And I did not know he cut his hair in 2007, 2006, wherever it was.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw the suit and tie Jericho, and the dude who was telling everybody he was the best in the world at what he does. And at that point, from that point on, I wanted to be that guy. I wanted to be the guy to say, I'm the best at what I do. I just love that character, and I think that's some of the best work he's ever done, in my opinion. The feud with Shawn Michaels, in 2009, the match that he had with Rey Mysterio, it was such a great time to watch the product, just to say the least. I mean, I loved it.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a great time right there. He had I remember going back and watching that feud with Shawn Michaels. Man, that was a great feud. That was a really great feud. And remember when the movie The Wrestler came out, how he got into the feud with the legends like Ricky Steamboat, Rowdy Piper. That was great. And at WrestleMania when they had that match, that was great.
I watched that match so many times, that 3-on-1 handicap match. It was so good.
It was.
I like it. It was my second favorite match. I have to give the nod to Taker and Shawn that night.
Mm-hmm.
But that was by far my second favorite, the handicap match.
Yeah.
But, you know, I was a kid in high school. That was my junior year in 2008.
Mm-hmm.
And I really didn't know what to do going forward. I mean, I wanted to go to college. I mean, at that point, I played soccer for a long time and thought I could do soccer in college. I even went to Union College and did a little, you know, tour around the campus. But, you know, I ended up not doing that. I graduated in May of 2009. And, you know, I did a little odd-end jobs, worked for my family, worked at call centers. I mean, but it didn't happen till the end of 2010. I started working for a man by the name of Scott Ray at Southern Extreme Wrestling. I was starting out as a security guard, paying my dues.
Right.
The superstar on that show was Raven.
Oh, nice.
And the Chris Rose was introduced to Raven, and that was a fun time. You know, it's very humbling because I thought going into independent wrestling I was going to make a bunch of money and all this, but you get smartened up to the business very well starting out. You know, the Chris Rose didn't realize that at the time.
Right.
But I worked for SXW. Started working for Livewire Championship Wrestling based out of Fairdale, Kentucky. I worked there most of the year of 2011. Near that time, I worked for Era Wrestling in Tennessee. And during 2011, I did on and off stuff with Killzone Wrestling, which was KZW at the time.
Right.
You know, 2011 and 2012 was very fun years. In 2012, I worked in Harlan, Kentucky for IPW for Jamie Northstar, which is a guy I have much respect for. He helped me a lot in the business.
Right.
Scott Ray, obviously, he helped me a lot in the business. He introduced me to a lot of good people. There's just so many down the list. I'm sorry if I forget anybody. There's so many that, you know, helped me along in those years. And in 2013 and 14, I kind of, you know, faded away a little bit. I had a kid in 2013 and another child in 2014 with my girlfriend at the time. And, you know, she wasn't the biggest supporter of wrestling, and I kind of fell for it. I kind of faded away from it and didn't watch it either. So in 2015, I got back to watching the product again when I saw that Sting was in WWE.
Yeah.
And that kind of shocked me, man. I mean, him and Triple H, I liked that old school match they had at WrestleMania.
Yeah, WrestleMania 31. Yeah, that was a good match. That was a good match. And Survivor Series, that's when Sting showed up during, it was the Authority versus like John Cena and his guys, and the winner, basically, if the Authority won, they would stay in power. If John Cena and his guys won, then the Authority's gone. And the last two guys was Dolph Ziggler and Seth Rollins, and then out of nowhere, when the ref got knocked out and stuff, out of nowhere, Triple H got in the ring there, and then freaking Sting shows up. That was a shock right there. That no one knew that was going to happen. That was like one of the best kept secrets because of everything goes on with the internet and stuff. And that was great seeing him there. And yeah, his match with Triple H at WrestleMania 31. What I liked about that match, my favorite part was when DX came out and then the NWO came out to help Sting. That was gold right there, man. That was gold.
Oh yeah, it was, man. That was a fun pay-per-view too. I thought Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar had a good match at that WrestleMania too. Big fan of Brock Lesnar as well.
Yeah, Lesnar.
But one thing I noticed about WWE at that time was when CM Punk parted ways with him in 2014.
Yeah.
That kind of changed the business in my eyes because, I mean, he was a big star and he left all of a sudden. And that kind of threw the WWE off, in my opinion.
Yeah, it did. It did, especially for WrestleMania 31, because with everything that was going on with WrestleMania 31, because I believe, or actually not WrestleMania 31.
WrestleMania 30.
30, yes, thank you. Yeah, WrestleMania 30, because it was supposed to be, I think it was going to be ended up with Triple H versus CM Punk in WrestleMania 30, and then I could have seen him get inserted into that, in the match with Orton and Batista, but he had enough and he decided to leave and part ways, and he did, and he's went on. He gave UFC a try. How many people could give UFC a try like he did? And people want him to come back to wrestling, and who knows, maybe one day he'll come back or he won't. We just don't know.
I could see him coming back in the near future. Not right now because he's probably still a little bitter, but I wish him all the best. He's one of my favorites and a big component of me joining wrestling as well and keeping my career going like it is.
Right.
Because man, in 2011, 2012, that was his two best years, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. Especially
that was fun stuff.
Yeah. Those were really good years right there. 2011, 2012, especially 2011, man, when he had that feud that started at John Cena, and then dropping the pipe bomb, and then Money in the Bank 2011 in Chicago, and him capturing the WWE Championship and running out through the crowd and leaving. And then that story went on there for a while. And then, yeah, of course, with him holding the WWE Championship, he's the longest this era's reigning WWE champion. He held the belt for, 463 days, because at that time there was no...
Yeah, he held it for a long time, man. That was a fun time to watch. I love CM Punk, and maybe one day Chris Rhodes and CM Punk could lock up. You never know.
Yeah. That'd be great. I'd definitely buy a ticket for that. I definitely would. Front row right there. I definitely will. I'll bring the kendo sticks.
We segue a little bit into we segue in a little bit of WWE, but in 2015, like I said, I watched that WrestleMania. And I was introduced to the WWE Network, which is a fantastic thing for any young wrestler out there to go watch.
Yes.
Because there's so much content on there, so many promos and everything. You could, learn from the best like Chris Rhodes did. But yeah, in 2015, I joined a promotion in my hometown of Corbin, which is TSW, Traditional Southern Wrestling.
Right.
And, I joined it for a little bit, but, I wasn't 100% committed, and that's something that nobody should ever feel like, because, I was with this girl who wasn't 100% supportive, and I quit yet again. I quit in 2015. In 2016, we were split apart.
Oh no!
And I went in full force, and my wrestling career got back on track in 2016. I worked some in Tennessee again. Couldn't tell you the promotions. I mean, it was just a few here and there. Then I went back to TSW for a little while. Just did some odd and end stuff. Then in 2017, TSW was gaining some, talent. This guy by the name of Jay Smooth, him and I had a rivalry for the Southern Impact Championship there, and that was some, best matches in my career. You can go on my Facebook and look those up.
Right.
Christopher Jordan Rose is the name there on the Facebook. Anybody can go back and look at those matches. They was some fun matches. Our steel cage match we had was awesome in my opinion. I mean, some great stuff there. Had some other matches, but 2017, I started in the end of 2010. I've been in the business a while, and I was kind of floating along there, and I wanted more. The Chris Rose started coming alive around this time. I wanted more from the business. I wanted more out of that company, and they just wouldn't give it to me.
Right.
So in 2018, I was still, I had a little bit of a injury to my knee, and it sidelined me for a little bit, a nagging injury. My knees are bad. Countless sports, countless maneuvers off the top rope. I mean, it kind of stunned me there. But, the promoter there wouldn't give me what I wanted. Wouldn't give the Chris Rose what he wanted. And I called him out on it. And you can look up that promo as well on my Facebook, my thoughts on TSW. And I called them out on it. I called them, and the Chris Rose was out the door. And now, in August of 2018, the Chris Rose is back in Kentucky's Own Wrestling. And I'm still there to this day.
Yes.
And that company did the right thing. It took me a little bit, but since November of 2014, I've been the KZW United States Champion.
You have.
And, yes, my thing right now is I will be the champion all the way to 2020.
2020. How about forever, man? How about forever?
Do what?
How about forever? Be the champ forever, man.
I will be the champ forever because no one in that company will beat me.
I want to talk more about KZW, but I want to take a quick break right now and let people know about the sponsors and supporters of Podcast City Network. You can find more of these sponsors over on podcastcity.net.
The following support and sponsor Podcast City Network. City Limits Tap Room, sports bar in DeLand, Florida, has brew on tap, serve food, the grilled cheese is excellent. For upcoming events, check out City Limits Tap Room on Facebook.com/City Limits Tap Room. Atlantic Sounds has thousands of new and used vinyl records and CDs. If they don't have it, they can order it for you. Same location since 1982. For more updates on what's new, check out Atlantic Sounds on Facebook.com/Atlantic Sounds Vinyl. Sports Sanity Customs have worked with organizations from custom embroidering polo shirts to jerseys for your kids' baseball team. They do it all. Armed with state-of-the-art equipment and an in-house design team, they are equipped to take on your next project. Visit their website to learn more, sportsanitycustoms.com. Visit Sports Sanity Customs on Facebook.com/Sports Sanity Customs. 3Count Design offers a wide range of graphic design products, video, photography and other forms of media. Everything from t-shirt designs to websites. Visit Facebook.com/3Count Design for more. Demo Blast Studios, an explosion of imagination. Original artwork, podcasts, video, apparel and more. Visit DemoBlastStudios.com. Visit Demo Blast Studios on Facebook.com/Demoblast Studios, the best family entertainment pro wrestling show in the state of Kentucky. Kentucky's Own Wrestling brings quality family vintage wrestling to a town near you. Kentucky's Own Wrestling offers a ladies division in wrestling and a training school. Kentucky's Own Wrestling is the current longest running Southern promotion. Visit Facebook.com/Somerset Kentucky's Own Wrestling. All supporters and sponsors are brought to you by Podcast City Network.
You're listening to The Everett Lee Show.
All right. Thank you for the sponsor, supporter, Podcast City Network. You can follow more, again, as mentioned, over on podcastcity.net. I have on the phone right now, we've been talking, if you're just tuning in right now, I've been talking with Kentucky's Own Wrestling's United States champion, Chris Rose. Chris, we were just about to discuss what you've been doing in Kentucky's Own Wrestling, and your last title defense that you had here a few weeks ago was with Gunnar Grimm. Tell me about that match you had.
You know, Gunnar Grimm is a guy who's been in the business a little while. He thought he was a little tough guy, and he tried to challenge the Chris Rose for his United States Championship, but he ultimately failed, just like past opponents. You see, you know, that was a good match. He took me to the limits, but ultimately, who walked out with their hand raised? And ultimately, who walked out with the championship around his waist? The Chris Rose did. So I really, I don't care how the match went. I mean, I just care that I come out with my hand raised, just like I have in the past.
Nice. That's awesome that you're United States champion and you retained your championship. That was great. That definitely was great. Now, the owner of Kentucky's Own Wrestling, I refer to him as Hurricane JJ McGuire, the true master of wrestling ring music. Everyone there usually refers to him, or they do refer to him as Mr. McGuire. Now, what is it like being there in Kentucky's Own Wrestling with and working with Mr. McGuire?
He seems like a pretty cool dude. I mean, very respectful of the Chris Rose. I know what he's done in the past. He's friends with Jimmy Hart, Hulk Hogan. I've worked with him a little bit. I mean, he's a pretty good guy. And he stays out of the Chris Rose's way was the most important thing. So.
They should. Anyone in Kentucky's Own Wrestling should, because after watching that match with you and Gunnar Grimm, because you definitely take it to the limit, man, in your matches, and that was one hell of a match. Again, I gotta give props to that. I definitely have to give props to that.
I made him tap out as well. He tapped. So
right. Right. Is there anyone that has their sights on the Chris Rose, and anyone that you have your sights on as well that's gotten in your path or crossed your paths that you've had to make tap out?
I knew what I signed up for, man. I'm the United States champion. I got the biggest target on my back right now. There's been many of them, like, Kenny Cannon tried, the American Patriot tried, Gunnar Grimm tried, Bully Larkin tried and tried again. Doesn't matter who they are. I'm going to walk out with my hand raised. The Chris Rose is the best in KZW. He's the best in Kentucky. I will dominate at any place I work. Any place. And this weekend in Williamsburg, Kentucky, February 23rd, I'm doing an open challenge, and it doesn't matter who accepts. The Chris Rose will pin them or submit them. You can bank on that.
Nice. I have up on the screen there, ladies and gentlemen, viewing the live stream right now. Chris is referring to Saturday, February 23rd. Kentucky's Own Wrestling returns to Williamsburg, Kentucky, and presents There Will Be Carnage. It's over at the National Guard Armory in Williamsburg. Doors open at 7 p.m., bell time at 7:30. Tickets are $10.
let me just point something out.
Mm-hmm.
You don't see the Chris Rose on the flyer, and that really gets under my skin when you don't put the Chris Rose on the flyer. So let me just point that out there. You can continue, please.
Okay. That's all about all I had to say there on that there on the event. But I did notice on the other event that's coming up, which we'll get to here in a minute, that on the poster for the next event. But I want to ask you a few more things here. I have now, being in the promotions you've worked for and going around in wrestling in Kentucky. Now, we were talking about WWE, WCW earlier. Now, real quick, do you keep up with ROH, Ring of Honor too?
I do. I keep up with New Japan, Ring of Honor.
Okay.
Real excited to see what AEW has to offer us in the future.
Right. Good promotion. I'm excited about that. I'm excited to see what AEW does bring, because the talent they've signed already and the roster keeps growing and growing. It seems like every other week they're putting out something on Facebook, social media, on Twitter about a new talent getting signed to the promotion. Now, keeping up with ROH, NXT, and WWE. If anyone in those promotions I mentioned right there you'd like to have a match with that you have not had a match with, who would you like to get in a ring with out of those promotions?
Oh, right off the bat, Chris Jericho. He was one of my favorites growing up. Watching him in 2008, like I said earlier, with the best in the world character, persona. And of course his matches with his match with Kenny Omega in the Tokyo Dome, which was outstanding. Yes, I would love to step in the ring with Chris Jericho. And I brought up somebody who's not in the business, CM Punk. I would love to have a match with him, and I would wish he would get back in the business so I could kick his ass, because Lee Chris Rose does that, as you've already seen.
Yes.
And CM Punk's got his ass kicked a couple of times here recently, and I could do it. I could do it a third time for him. And Chris Jericho calls himself the best in the world, but
right.
He wouldn't be calling that after he had a match with me. So.
Oh, is that an open challenge?
Those two right there stick out the most.
Would you be saying that's an open challenge to the Ayatollah Rock and Rolla, Chris Jericho? Is that an open challenge you're giving him?
Absolutely.
You heard it right here.
If Chris Jericho ever wanted a piece of the Chris Rose, he knows where to find me. So
nice.
If AEW wants that match, the Chris Rose versus the so-called best in the world, Chris Jericho, I'll be more than happy to come on down to Double or Nothing after he gets done with Kenny Omega.
Huh. You're here, ladies and gentlemen, Chris Rose. Chris Jericho, you watching this? You watch this? The challenge has been laid down. I'd definitely like to see that. The Chris Rose versus Chris Jericho. I definitely would like to see that right there. Damn. Makes the hair on the back of my neck stand up, man. It definitely does. And talking about events, you talked about AEW's Double or Nothing. There's one other event I'd like to discuss that I briefly brought up just a few minutes ago, is that the next KZW event that will be on Saturday, March 2nd, KCW Wrestling presents a Legendary Night. And it looks like that you're on the poster for that one right there. It looks.
They got something right, finally.
On the poster there, they have you right there. And legendary Larry B returns to KCW after 7 years. KCW Kentucky's Own Wrestling presents a Legendary Night on Saturday, March 2nd. Will be at the Aspirin Center, 90 Airport Road. And I can't really see the print here, but it's up on the Facebook page there, ladies and gentlemen, over on Kentucky's Own Wrestling over on Facebook. Doors open up at 7 p.m. and bell times at 7:30. And now they accept all major credit cards. Who or what are you going to plan on be doing at that event on March 2nd? Or is that people going to have to buy a ticket and find out?
Well, as you know, this weekend I'm going to lay down the open challenge, and of course, whoever accepts, I'm going to pulverize right into the mat. And on March 2nd, you could expect the same thing. Whoever my opponent is, it doesn't matter how big, how tough, or how strong they think they are, I'm going to put them right into the mat, either tapping them out or pinning them 1, 2, 3. It doesn't matter who they are.
Nice.
That's what's going to happen on March 2nd. The Chris Rose is still going to be your KZW United States champion.
Hell yeah. Take that to the bank, ladies and gentlemen, right there. And anyone who steps in the Chris Rose way, he will destroy you and decimate you. Right now, Chris, on the live stream right there on the chat, Dirty Deeds 817 says, I want to see Chris Rose versus Jeremy Rage. Any comment on that?
You know, I grew up in the business, and I've seen Jeremy Rage a time or two, but let me just tell you this. He's a former KCW United States champion, and if he ever wants to come back for this championship, he better not ever step near me because, once again, he'll be pinned 1, 2, 3. But yes, Jeremy Rage is a pretty good opponent, but he's not the Chris Rose. So
you heard it here again, ladies and gentlemen. Jeremy Rage, if you're watching, you want to step back in the ring with the Chris Rose, he'll definitely accept a challenge for you. And I am looking forward to seeing who steps up to the plate on Saturday, February 23rd. Kentucky's Own Wrestling presents There Will Be Carnage at the Williamsburg National Guard Armory. Doors open at 7 p.m. Bell time at 7:30. All tickets $10 and now accepting major credit cards. I want to thank you, Chris Champ, for coming on, United States champion, the Chris Rose, for coming on here tonight and discussing and talking with me about your beginnings in wrestling to where you're at, holding on to that gold. And one last question before we wrap this podcast up, the Chris Rose. Do you have any last words you want to say to anyone that wants to step up at you on the 23rd, and where can people find you on social media at?
you can find me on social media where I am the most. Christopher Jordan Rose is my Facebook name. On Twitter at the Chris Rose, capital TCR. And also you can pre-order one of my The Chris Rose shirts at any upcoming show that we will have. Especially this weekend, we will be pre-ordering all The Chris Rose t-shirts. And let me just say this. Any KZW wrestler or any wrestler in Kentucky who wants to step up to the plate and try to bat at the Chris Rose, I accept any challenger, especially Chris Jericho, because I would love to face him and I would love to beat him 1, 2, 3.
Nice. That is awesome. That definitely is. Chris, thank you for coming on tonight and coming on the podcast. And before I wrap this up and head on out, I do want to mention that you could check out more of the Everett Lee Show on the following. You can check out Everett Lee Show on Stitcher Radio. Download that app for your smartphone and tablet. You can check out Everett Lee Show out on Libsyn.com, The Everett Lee Show. iTunes, The Everett Lee Show is on iTunes. And on YouTube, The Everett Lee Show. You can check out the audio portion of this podcast and many other podcasts on the YouTube portion of The Everett Lee Show. And you can check out more Podcasting Network over on podcasting.net. Follow them on Facebook, Podcasting Network, and send a tweet to them on Twitter at PodcastingNet. And you can check out the video portion of this podcast and many other shows over on Podcasting Network's YouTube channel. So make sure you subscribe to that. And as always, I want to thank Chris Rose for coming on. And that is it. Everett Lee signing off. Everyone have a good night. We'll see you again next time on the Everett Lee Show. Peace.